Hey everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here, and tonight we are making one of my family's absolute favorite meals, and I am going to teach you how to do it. I originally developed this recipe craving a really thick, hearty chicken, veggie, chicken noodle soup type thing, and I don't know, I feel like we really knocked it out of the park with this one. It's delicious. It is oil-free. There is a lot of salt in it though. So if you need to adjust that, adjust accordingly. But all that being said, let's just go ahead and get started. Vegan prepper. Vegan prepper. So this recipe is a little bit involved on the prep side, but still not too crazy. You can still throw it together for your evening meal relatively easily, as long as you have some sort of cooked grain that you've already got ready to go. Our family's absolute favorite is barley, and so we have some barley that we're going to be putting into this soup. Hello, Sage. There's some other ingredients to prepare. It does take a lot of spices. Just be ready for the fact we're probably gonna be chopping a lot, getting ready. So let me just go ahead and show you what all the ingredients are. Okay, here are all of the ingredients that we are going to be adding into the soup. I'm going to put the recipe in the description box below, but for now I will go ahead and let you know what's in it. Also, please keep in mind that tonight I am making a 1.5 batch of my original recipe, so the amounts that you're seeing here are actually 1.5 times what I'm about to tell you. So first up, we've got 1 onion diced, 3 carrots chopped, 3 spears of celery chopped, and then our giant pile of spices. I told you there's a lot of spices, but before we get into that, let me show you how I measure the spices that I bring out from my garden. Okay, so for measuring out spices that come from the garden, like all of my sage right here, what I do in my recipes is I'll crumble up bits of the spice into just a little bowl until I get the amount that I need. And then also, I end up picking out any obvious sticks or whatever as I go. And so that's how I did so far. Both the basil and the parsley were from the garden, and this is exactly how I measure that. And then any that's excess can just go right back into the jar where it came from. And even though I tend to want to store most of my spices whole, having a little bit here and there in there is not that big of a deal. So now, because I'm going to need, for my 1.5 times version of this recipe, I need a tablespoon. So I'll be able to pack that into a tablespoon, see how much it is, and it can go. And then that's just how I do my measurement for all of my whole leaf herbs that I save from my garden. All right, so clockwise, from up here, we have 2 teaspoons of basil, 2 bay leaves, 1 teaspoon of parsley, 1/2 teaspoon of rosemary powder, 2 teaspoons of sage, 1/2 teaspoon of thyme, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of seasoning salt, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 6 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. That's in the middle there. This is going to form our absolutely delicious broth. To the soup, we're also going to be adding 8 ounces of cut tempeh. Tempeh is an excellent, excellent product. It's a whole food, plant-based thing that I think is the closest to a meat texture, just like right away without having to do anything to it. This already very much has a texture similar to meat. However, tempeh can have kind of a bitter flavor just from the fermentation process of the soybeans. So it is best if you either boil it before you use it, or if you just cook it into a soup like this one that's going to have all these rich flavors. You're not going to get any of that bitterness, and it's just going to end up tasting delicious, and just like you have chunks of chicken floating around in your soup, only, not gross. So also, at the very end, we will be adding in our cooked grain. And like I said before, our family really does prefer barley. It just makes it so hearty and delicious. We love barley in our soups. And then the original recipe actually didn't even have potatoes in it. But I've been adding potatoes lately just to chunk it up and make it try to make it go a little farther. Because like I said, our family is going through this soup really fast and I just, need to fill some bellies. So I added potatoes to it. And then finally, 9 cups of water. Because I am using a Berkey water filter, pretty much anytime I'm planning on cooking a large batch of anything, a large soup, large whatever, I'll grab a giant jar and I will fill it with the water that I need for my recipe so that I know I have enough and I'm not, to the point of my soup where I have to pour my water in and my Berkey is empty. That happens all of the time. So this is just something that I do because of the fact that that's the system that I have. And so that's a tip for anybody who might have a Berkey. If you also run into that. So anyway, these are the ingredients, and the very first step is to water saute all of the veggies, and so we're gonna go ahead and get started with that. All right, so I am here at my stove getting my pot heated up, ready to take my batch of veggies here. And while that's heating up, I did want to mention that I don't typically do all of the prep beforehand like I just did so that I could show everybody the ingredients. I typically will go ahead and cut up all of the veggies, at least the onion, carrot, and celery, because the first step of the recipe is to go ahead and brown those up in the base of the pan, which also adds to the flavor of the broth. And then while that process is happening is usually when I am doing the spices, when I prepare potatoes and do all of that stuff. So that's why I actually didn't even prepare the potatoes yet. But this pot should be pretty hot. And so I'm going to, like I said, water saute these and get these browned. And I'll walk you through a little bit of that process. There's many tutorials online. I keep feeling like I need to do my own tutorial. I don't necessarily want to put a full tutorial in the video, but I'll kind of talk the basics. So you don't actually need a nonstick pan. This happens to be a nice ceramic pan, and I'm sorry, I'm like hunched over to try to like be in the frame. I need to like get a little chair. I'll sit right here. Anyway, you don't need a nonstick pan. I actually typically do this in cast iron and stainless steel. I have a nice ceramic pot here right now just because everything comes to a boil very quickly in this particular pot. I'm not sure why. This is just so that I can speed through the process so that we can get our food faster, especially since I am trying to film it at the same time and that makes it take longer. And so basically I'm going to get these in, and it's really important to listen for the sizzle and hopefully you'll be able to hear it. It's a beautiful sound. But basically what you do is you get your veggies in. I'll show you a little bit right here. And it's really important, you're not actually going to be moving these around the pan very much. What you really want is for there to be a little bit of browning on the bottom of the veggies. And you want that because that's where the flavor comes from. But I do a little different than a lot of people who do water saute, and I add just a little salt, and that's because the salt begins to draw out the flavors of the vegetables. So you end up with a much more flavorful final dish, even with just that little bit of salt. So if you're gonna cut out some of that salt from the recipe, because there is quite a lot of salt in here, then do that, but maybe consider not cutting out this salt unless you are genuinely like, reversing atherosclerosis right now and you absolutely have to leave the salt out. But this salt is incredibly important to the flavor that comes out of the vegetables. They begin to release their own juices, and I just noticed that they caramelize just that little bit faster, and I think it's because of that, like you're drawing the sugars and stuff out of the veggies. So I'm going to go ahead and let that sit a little longer, and I'll just sort of bring you back when it's time to add a little water, and I'll just talk a little bit about how this goes down. Okay, it is time to start moving the veggies around. I haven't even added any water at this point, but I've gotten all of my potatoes peeled. They've just been sitting, and so let me go ahead and show you exactly what it looks like on the bottom. So I can smell that there's some browning going on. See? Look at all that gorgeousness. Can you see? Sorry, this is a very bad way to do this. There's a gorgeous browning in the bottom of the pan. And let me go ahead and actually switch my camera angle because that was really dumb. Okay, so here is that browning that you saw in the bottom of the pan here. And so basically what we're gonna do now is take a little bit of water, no more than like a 1/4 cup at a time. And now watch it how easily all of that brown comes right off the bottom of the pan just with the water. And it really does work that well every time, even if you're using like a stainless steel pan or a cast iron pan. It really does work. And you don't have to have anything that's nonstick. You just keep doing it like that. And so now the next step is to let it sit again. So you sort of scrape the bottom, let it sit until it's getting brown again on the bottom, and you can actually smell it. You really can smell when it starts getting that golden color. And if you can't initially, just sort of move a little on the edge and look, but really after a little while you're able to really be able to smell it without having to look. And so I'm just going to leave that and probably repeat that process 2 or 3 more times just to get a bunch of stuff nice and golden, just to get that extra flavor. If you were really in a rush, this is not necessary. There's a lot of flavor in those spices. You could just toss everything in here and throw the water in and boil it all until it's cooked. But just taking this little extra time is really beneficial to the final rich flavor of the soup. Oh my gosh, I think I could do an entire ASMR video of just the veggies sizzling. So nice. Okay, so the technique heavy portion of the recipe is done. These are beautifully golden. Everything from this point on is just dump and go. So I don't know what you need to see, but let's go ahead and take a look. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. We should have started here. Okay, so basically what I like to do is toss in the ingredients, like all of the solid ingredients, before I add the liquid so that you're not ending with a bunch of splashes. And I did want to mention, I did peel these potatoes, but that's only because I was using russets, and the skins are really thick, and my family is not a very big fan of the skins of the russet potatoes. And so, you know, they're pretty great, and so I try to listen when they do express a preference. And so I did peel these because of them. I don't personally mind, but you know, whatever. We're cooking to help people feel good and happy and loved, and I'll show them my love by peeling the potatoes. Okay, so we've got all of this water, and now we'll pour this in. And it is sketchy, super full. Okay, oh my gosh. The smell already is just incredible. So basically what we're doing now is we're gonna bring this to a boil. And it's going to boil now for 15 to 20 minutes, however long it takes for the veggies, primarily at this point the potatoes, to cook. You know, the onions and the celery and the carrots have already been a bit, you know, pre-cooked because they've been sauteing for so long. But yeah, this is gorgeousness multiplied by 100. It's like gorgeousness turned up to 11. So love it. So yeah, we're gonna let it come to a boil again, 15-20 minutes. Let those things cook through. I am not adding the barley yet. Okay, so yeah, we're not adding the barley yet, because if we put the barley in now, it's gonna get super overcooked and like yucky, gummy it's just not going to be very good. So barley or rice or pasta, whatever pre-cooked thing you have, quinoa you'd like to throw in here, do it at the absolute very end and then let it kind of heat through again for like 5 or 10 minutes. Even 5-ish minutes probably is enough. And then your soup will be totally done. So the other thing is, if you don't have barley pre-cooked, barley is unfortunately something that takes a long time to cook. So I like to just pre-cook some barley, like especially if I know I'm going to be doing some soups, and I just have it on hand ready to go. But if you don't have barley on hand and you need something that cooks a little faster and you want to put something in this soup, again, like I said before, pasta is an excellent option. Pasta cooks super fast. You could start that while the veggies are sauteing. Same thing with quinoa. Quinoa only takes like 15-ish minutes to cook. You could toss that in at the very end as well. So there's a lot of options. And actually, even though there's a lot of prep to this recipe, I find that there's a lot of time is not necessarily being wasted at any point unless you pre-prepare everything like I did before. Because like I mentioned, you can be chopping or peeling your potatoes or putting your spices together or whatever while the veggies are doing their gorgeous goldenness on the skillet or on the stove, and you're getting them all golden and gorgeous. And you can kind of do some of that prep while that is happening. But yeah, so for now, it's just a waiting game. Wait for it to come to a boil, wait for it to cook, add stuff. I'll be back with some finished, glorious, amazing soup. I wish that you could taste it through the camera, but you know, for now, I guess we'll have to settle for you making it yourself. All right, everything's plenty cooked, so now we're just gonna add the cooked green in. And for me, of course, that's the barley. So let that heat through just a little while, but not too long. It's like maybe just a few minutes. It's gorgeous, isn't it? Oh my gosh. All right. Oh my gosh, look at this. It is just as yummy as it looks. It's super hearty, comforting, delicious, warm bowl of soup to just make you feel super happy. And I don't know, it's just like, if you're not happy eating this, I don't know what it is you need to eat to be happy. But my family has been waiting very patiently for this to hit their mouths. So we're gonna go ahead and go eat. And hopefully that was helpful to you. If you have any more questions or comments, please let me know down below. And I will do my best to answer any questions that you have. But hopefully that was really clear. And if you have any specific video requests or any other kinds of recipes that you might like to see done in a vegan way, because I'm sure that I probably have done a vegan version of almost everything at this point in my life, especially feeding a crowd, right? Family-sized vegan meals. That's not something that you see very often. Just go ahead and hit me up and I'll see what I can do. But I hope that you really enjoyed that. And thank you so much for watching. And as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. I'm so hungry. I'm gonna eat. It's gonna be so good.